Hi everyone. So my name is Rohan Dev, and today I'll be discussing with you guys the case study on broadcasting rights. So we were asked in class to make a presentation on how uh, accounting for broadcasting rights is done. So I'm sorry about the handwritten notes. I didn't get time to make a full-fledged presentation on it, but I hope my handwriting is legible enough. So let's get started quickly. So the essential case study that we were given is how broadcasting rights are accounted for in the financials of any company. So to do this, I refer to mainly three standards. One is Ind AS 115 on revenue for contract with customers, and Ind AS 2 inventories, and Ind AS 38 intangible assets. So I wouldn't focus a lot on the technically the name of the standards. I'll just get right into the accounting part. So I hope it's visible to everyone with at this size. So I'll just increase it a little. Okay. So what are broadcasting rights? So broadcasting rights are basically when BCCI gives the rights to Star India to broadcast 102 matches of Indian domestic season, as well as any matches played in India. And Star India pays BCCI a sum of 6138 crores for these rights. And after that, Star India broadcasts these matches to its customers, and in turn it receives money in the form of subscriptions from the customers, as well as ad revenue from the ad agency, I mean the advertisement sponsors. So that is the essence of broadcasting rights. So this right that is given is called the broadcasting right, and we are going to discuss how accounting is done for this one. So in the books of Star India, so there are generally two practices that are prevalent in the um, industry regarding accounting for broadcasting right. So my analysis, this is basically a study on PwC's report that I read on, and so they mentioned that there are two major kinds of treatments that intangible assets like broadcasting rights are done. So either it's treated as intangible assets, and some companies do treat it as inventory. But this is a kind of a old method of classification for those companies which are transitioning from the old accounting standard to the new accounting standard. But this is a much more accurate um, classification in my opinion, and as well as the PwC report also mentions that this is a lot a more accurate way of showing it, even though irrespective of the method that is chosen does not really have any significant difference in the accounting impact, because the amortization process is the same for inventory and intangible. This just goes into the current assets, and intangible generally goes into your non-current assets. So that's the only difference that creates, but other than that, there's no significant difference. So we are going to discuss this concept from four perspectives. So one is the recognition. So recognition is the first step when the asset or payment is recognized in the books of accounts. That is called recognition. Classification is how that payment is classified, whether it is classified as an asset or whether it is classified as a cost. And third would be the cost amortization over the entire period, and impairment. So the cost amortization is the most important part of the standard, and then impairment is a very small part. So let's get into recognition. So recognition is basically when should we recognize that asset in the balance sheet. So the standard gives two conditions basically. One is the cost of acquiring programming is known and available to be broadcast. So basically what it's saying that we should recognize that payment in the balance sheet only when we know the actual cost of programming and it is available to be broadcast. So for example, if let's say I purchase the rights to broadcast the Olympics, and the Olympics hasn't happened yet. So even though I paid for it, I would not be able to classify that as an asset in the books until it's available to broadcast. Also, in case of some, let's say there's a new film that is come out. So for example, let's say Sherni has come out. on Netflix, or maybe there's a release on in the halls, cinema halls, and there's a stipulated time that after this time only I can put it on my streaming platform or show it on TV. So until that is available to be broadcast, I can't recognize that as a asset, right? So these are the both the conditions that should be satisfied before I recognize that in my balance sheet. So cost is basically how much should be recognized. So here there can be two cases. So basically the standard says that the full asset should be recognized in the balance sheet, and in the balance sheet, let's say we are taking the approach of the intangible assets method. So in the balance sheet, the full asset should be recognized at first, and after that, when we go into the notes to accounts, um, we can separate it in on the basis of the acquired programming rights or the prepayments. So let's take two cases that could happen. So first case is where the payment is made fully in advance. So in that case, we'll take the total payment that has been made. So let's say, as this example was, that 6183 crores. So if I upfront pay the 6183 crores, I'll recognize the entire amount as a let's say right now, let's say I'll take it as asset. And in case I stagger the payment, so instead of the 6,000 crores, I pay it in 5 years. So what in case of this BCCI agreement, what the agreement was that this was giving me the rights from 2018 to 2023. So it was a 5-year right that was given to me. And let's say that I have to I don't have to pay the amount upfront, and I have to stagger the payment, let's say 1,200 every year. So in that case, because of the fair value approach that the new indices have, um, we need to basically take care of the time value of money and discount the payment on the basis of the present value of the payments. So basically, we take a discounting rate, let's say 10%, and then we discount those rates on the basis of that rate. We find out the staggered payment, and then later on we reclassify that asset and include the finance cost and stuff. So moving on to the second, so this is the cost part. Second condition that was available to be broadcast. So let's say the completed show. So in case of completed shows, so where the filming of the show has been completed, in that case, whenever the license period commences, that is the date on which I am available to broadcast that show. Uh, in case of live events like the Olympics or Euro 2020, um, the live event is the date on which I'm able to broadcast that. So that's how I have to basically, I have to wait for that event to occur, and then I can recognize that asset in my books. So I've just shown an example where, let's say in March 2021, in March 2019, the bidding began. And so in that case, I have not paid the cost, as well as it's not available to me for broadcast. So I'll not do any accounting for that one. Let's say after March, I pay the money in May 2019, and I win the bid and make the payment. So even though my condition one has been satisfied, I know the amount that has to be paid, still it's not available for me to broadcast. So I'll take that payment and record it as a prepayment and not as an intangible yet. Once, let's say the Euro Cup starts in May 2020 and the event takes place, in that case, I'll recognize that intangible now. So that's basically my recognition part. So moving on to classification. So as I mentioned earlier, there are two types of classifications that are prevalent. One is the inventory and intangible asset. So the definition of inventory as per Ind AS 2 is that any asset that is held for sale. So basically finished goods, process of production, which is work in progress, and material supplies to be used for production, which is your inputs. So in that would consider as inventory, but in this case, considering this as inventory is incorrect in my opinion, because inventory is something that is held for sale, but we don't sell the broadcasting right. If we were in the business of acquiring broadcasting right and selling them to someone else, in that case, fine, inventory, you can classify that as inventory. But because our entire business model is acquiring that asset and then redistributing it as a like broadcasting it, it's not a not something that I would classify as an inventory. The second method is intangible assets. So as per Ind AS 38, intangible assets is defined as any identifiable non-monetary asset without any physical substance. So more this is a more accurate classification of broadcasting rights, and this is generally used for classification on the basis of current and non-current. So basically, earlier it used to be on the basis of 12 months, but as per Ind AS 1, now it says that it basically depends on the broadcasting cycle of that uh, broadcast. So if it's within one operating cycle, and so it can classify that as a current asset. If it's beyond a operating cycle, so like PCCI gives the rights for 5 years, so it's a long-term contract, so it's a non-current. Let's say if it's a short-term contract where let's say for Wimbledon, it's only for a few months, and buy that, so that would be a current asset. So that's how the current and non-current is classified, and not necessarily strictly on the 12 months as per the earlier standards. So now we come to the most important part of the standard, which deals with the amortization. So amortization basically means in case whenever, so amortization is basically like depreciation. So just like for fixed assets and non-current assets, we have depreciation where we kind of write off the entire amount in a staggered way so that there's no significant impact on the balance sheet or profit and loss account at one time. Amortization is done on intangible assets. So any asset that does not have any physical substance, on that we do amortization, and any asset on which has a tangible element, we do depreciation. So it's a similar thing. So in the standard, it says that there could be three kinds of amortization principles that we can use. Firstly is my straight line concept, where let's say even for the broadcasting rights of BCCI, let's suppose that I've been given the broadcasting rights for 5 years, and I assume that the viewership along the entire 5 years would be same. So I would be like, okay, yeah, it's the same. So I'll just apportion it on the basis of straight line. If I estimate that the viewership might change, so like let's say I have a big event that is coming up in 1 year, and then the other years it's a little more bland, so I would allocate more to that year compared to the other year. So let's say 1 year I have an Olympics, and the other years I have normal regular matches and stuff. So the year in which I have the Olympics, I would apportion more of that asset, because that basically the standard says that amortized in such a way that it reflects the pattern of consumption of the economic benefit. So economic benefit would be the revenue that is coming in. So it's in the same ratio in which the revenue would be generated. So for example, if I have a Olympic or a big event or a World Cup that is coming up, that would generate a lot more revenue for me. So I would ideally, if I apportion the amortize the intangible asset in the same manner in which revenue is being received by me, that would not significantly impact my uh, profit and loss account, and give me a more holistic view of the actual profits and losses. And in some cases, for example, live matches, or in case of some event which generally takes place once. So in that case, the amortization will be on the first airing itself, and then there's no straight lining, or it's a small event where, let's say, as I mentioned, Wimbledon. So it's just, it happens once and then not aired again. So in that case, I'll amortize it over the entire uh, first airing itself. So keeping that in mind, I found a few examples. So let's say quiz shows. So quiz shows, music programs, boxing matches, these are generally amortized on full on first transmission, because generally the viewership is a lot more in the first transmission, and it's the distributors are unable to predict the future audience that show will generate in the future. So something like KBC or something which generally generates a new episode generates a lot more views, and later on I am not able to predict whether how many views it will get, or there is no subsequent airing. So in that case, I'll just first transmission, I'll amortize the entire thing. Again, all these examples that I'm sharing is basically depends on the management's decision. And so it might change. You might interpret it in a different way, and that accountant might take excuse me. So the accountant might take his or her call accordingly. So let's say new season of Game of Thrones comes, and each in case of these episodic shows where the first episode gets a lot of views, then it views dies down, and then again the finale gets a lot of views. So in that case, what we can do is based on the expected revenue on the first and multiple airing. So I know that on my first episode and the last episode will get a lot of views, and middle episodes will not really get as much views. So in that case, I'll generate based on the flow of revenue, which will give me a more accurate presentation of the uh, costs. In case of episodic series like Friends, Big Bang Theory, and Office and stuff, where um, each episode does not have any additional, like you can't say that okay, this episode gets a lot of views compared to the others. In that case, you can straight line that entire series, and because it has consistent audience and similar views during reruns as well. So when Friend runs for the 18th time, 19th time, it still gets the equal number of views. Children shows also get a lot of reruns, because as children grow up and a new generation of children come in, um, they keep watching the same content over and over again, so it's straight line and consistent views are there. Sports rights, so I've taken three examples. One is Wimbledon. So Wimbledon would be a short season, so this would be apportioned on basis of the first transmission. Premier League is a generally longer season, and even though the later on the viewership might increase, but it's generally same throughout the entire season, so it could be straight lined. Euro 2020, let's say the qualifying stage might not get as much views. Later on, the live matches get a lot more views, and then semifinals, quarterfinals, finals get a lot more views. So you can apportion the cost on the basis of the viewership, and on the basis of the revenue that you will be generating, you can apportion the cost. Finally, we come to the last point on impairment. So impairment is basically when there is a significant reduction in the value of an asset, we impair that asset and uh, reduce that asset in the book so that my books are not overstated. So impairment basically means the reduction in the value of asset when expected revenue from that event is less than the unamortized cost of the license. So in the amortization thing, what we were doing was we were amortizing it over the entire period. So let's say I paid 600,000 crores for the BCCI rights, and I was straight lining it over the entire let's say 5 years. But in 1 year, I realized that because of COVID, the matches are not taking place, or there's a significant reduction in the revenue because matches are not being aired. So in that case, I see that the unamortized cost of the license compared to my expected revenue is a lot more. So in that case, I will impair my asset, and whatever there is impairment is there, that will be taken right into the profit and loss account. So, for example, intangible assets will be impaired, cancellation of IPL due to COVID. So, in that case, the um, broadcasting rights for the IPL would be impaired. Sports rights versus TV rights. So, sports generally they are broadcast once, and then only highlights are shown later on. TV rights, TV shows generally have multiple reruns, whereas sports are broadcasted only once. Sports rights generally are treated as prepayments, and TV rights are intangible assets, because sports are live events. So until that day comes when I can finally air my sports, till that day I have to show it as a prepayment, and TV generally is produced earlier, so I can show it as an intangible asset. So I have two cases where I have shown. So let's say the cost of the broadcasting right was 135 crores, and I was getting the revenue of 50, 80, and 55 each year. And if I had straight line the revenue divided by 3 and 45, 45, 45, so you'd see even though the revenue was increasing in the between, the profit are not in the same ratio, or they do not really give me an accurate figure because costs are not apportioned in the same way. Whereas in case of flow of revenue method, even if it's the same cost, so initially I estimate my revenue. So let's say initially I estimate the revenue to be 50, 55, 61, and the cost I would apportion that's 135 on the same ratio. So 50 divided by 165 into 135. So that's how I would apportion the cost. And after that, I would, when I get the actual revenue, so for the first year, let's say I actual estimated revenue and actual revenue would be the same. So 50 and 41, so that's 9. In the second year, the actual revenue increases to 80. So now what I'll do is I'll take the 50 plus 80 plus, I don't have the data for 22 yet. So that's why I'll take 50 plus 80 plus 61, the amount that I had estimated earlier. And I'll take that as the base into 135 into 80, and I'll get 56. And similarly, balancing figure would be in the third year. And you can see this is not as much skewed as the profits here. So it's generally in the same manner in which my revenue is increasing. So it gives a more accurate presentation of my accurate amortization of my costs. So that is how basically the broadcasting rights are accounted for. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. So let me just stop sharing. So yeah, so if you have any other questions that you want to ask, you can reach out to me. I'll try and send out the PwC report as well if you want to go into more detail on any of these concepts. But I tried to explain all of these as well as I could. I'm sorry I didn't have a PPT ready. I showed it through my notes only, but hopefully gives you some clarity on how accounting for broadcasting rights is done. Thank you so much.